Hello and welcome. It is our 12 Days of Christmas webinar event brought by Office Dynamics International. It is day 7 of our 12 Days of Christmas webinar series, and today we are joined by a very special guest. Julie Perrine will be with us today, and we are talking about From Chaos to Control. This will be an interview between Joan and Julie about Julie's book, The Organized Admin. And I have a question for you, and it's about where do you struggle the most with your organization? So as we get started and everyone jumps in here, we're going to throw a poll question out there to you. Go ahead and answer that. We'll give you a moment to go ahead and answer that, and we'll reveal the poll in just a moment. So where do you struggle most when it comes to getting and staying organized? So we don't have a handout for you today, but Julie will share an outline of her talking points after the webinar, so watch for that in our follow-up blog. And also, please stay tuned until the end of our 30-minute program for our special offer, some bonus information from our guests, and the giveaway of the day. We also share a certificate of attendance with you in the follow-up blog post, and you can watch that as well at officedynamics.com/blog. We will be doing something special at the end of the program, so if you have the extra time, we will be staying on after the 30-minute webinar to continue the topic of pillar huddles. Joan talked about living a big life yesterday, and she shared with you that we have a pillar huddle every week. So Friday is our pillar huddle day. Joan is going to lead our pillar huddle, and our team will join us in my office after the webinar on this same connection, and we'll do our pillar huddle live with all of you. So feel free to stay, or if you want to check it out and you don't have time today, you're always welcome to watch the replay. Okay, Joan, I'm going to hand it over to you so that you can introduce our guest for the day.
Yes, thank you, Jasmine. And I'm very, very excited to have Julie here today. She's just amazing, incredible, a wonderful person. And I'm just really, really excited she's here to help us with a very important topic. In fact, this is very timely. And Julie, I didn't even have a chance to tell you this, but we had conducted a survey, I think it was later this summer, and over about assistants responded, and we were asking them about what would they like more information on, what topics would they like us to expand on, and the topics that rose to the top were getting organized, time management, and prioritization. So you're going to be spot on today, and I'm really excited to have you here. Let me tell everyone about Julie in case you're not familiar with Julie Perrine. Is an administrative expert, author, and all-around procedures pro. Yes, she is. She is the founder and CEO of All Things Admin, a company dedicated to providing breakthrough products, training, mentoring, and resources for administrative professionals worldwide. Julie has more than 20 years of experience in the administrative profession, spanning several industries and serving in corporate and startup settings. Julie's main mission is to guide, encourage, and connect administrative professionals to the innovative technologies, ideas, resources, and people they need as they work toward achieving their goals. Julie is the author of 2 awesome books, The Innovative Admin, Unleash the Power of Innovation in Your Administrative Career, and today's topic, there it is, The Organized Admin, Leverage your unique organizing style to create systems, reduce overwhelm, and increase productivity. This sounds really good, especially for this time of year. Welcome, Julie. So glad you're here.
Delighted to be here.
Yes. Well, we're going to jump right in because I know you have a ton of information to share today. I thought, why don't we start with, what was the inspiration for writing this book, The Organized Admin?
Well, like you, we've done lots of surveys, but since we launched All Things Admin back in 2009, every single person who comes to our website and purchases anything or downloads a free resource, we've always asked, what are your top 2 challenges? And the answer, not surprisingly, based on your survey results also, has been getting and staying organized in some capacity. It's, you know, everything from workspace to paper files, digital files, their inbox, travel planning, and even things related to their own professional career organization and what they're doing to stay on top of things for themselves personally. So a lot of them know that they need to be better organized, but a lot of people struggle with how to get started, or worse yet, how to maintain it once they maybe get to a state that's more organized. So what I wanted to do with this book, and kind of the approach I take with everything I do when I train, is provide some simple plans of action, give them some strategies, and then provide the simple plans of action for how they can take that and implement it. And we structured the book in such a way that they don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can jump around and go straight to the area where you're having the most trouble first and work through it in the order of importance for what you need personally in your particular situation.
Yes, I like how the book is laid out, and I like this style. You know, just right to the point, and can just look and grab what you want. It's really well organized and thought out, and I really like the format. I think it's going to be great for people. Why is organization important for admins? I think we know conceptually, but what's the real reason?
Well, we're not just responsible for keeping ourselves on track, we're responsible for keeping our executives and our entire teams on track as well. Whether we realize that or not some days, that's really part of our main mission, is sitting at the hub of the wheel, supporting the teams we support. And it's impossible to get someone else organized if you're unorganized yourself. So the organization piece is really important to start at your desk, and then it kind of works out from there and spreads throughout your team and your executives as well. And the reason organization is so critically important is because it is at the core of what helps build trust with your executives and those that you support. When they ask you for something, they expect you to be able to find it or to quickly deliver it and be efficient about it. So if you're struggling to find files and you don't know exactly what you're supposed to be doing when you get a particular task, that's something that's repetitive and that you do over and over again, but they don't have the confidence that you're going to be able to do it the exact same way you did it the last time, that creates that distrust that creates issues a lot of times with trying to build the partnership with your executive. So being organized really is kind of at the heart of that trust and development of that partnership, in my experience. And the other piece of that is, if you're not organized, you are wasting an immense amount of time and money. And you may not have added up or thought about all of the times it takes you to search for a misplaced document or to, you know, try to track something down. But if you were able to be as particular as you could be about tracking how many minutes you're wasting every single time you have to look for something, that is costing your company. And so the less you have to do that, and the more effective and efficient you are in doing and getting the results that you get on a daily basis, the more productive you are and the more you're actually saving your company in the long run. And then when you're organized and you have some of those systems in place and you're able to kind of share them with your team members and they start doing things in a similar fashion, you're helping everybody be more effective and efficient as a result.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I like the piece about the trust that you said, and I don't think sometimes there's that connection maybe that assistants make, because I know maybe you've heard this comment too once in a while from an executive, that if their assistant missed following through on something, then they're concerned, okay, if my assistant missed that because she can't find that piece of paper or it's not in the system, how many other things that are being missed that I don't even know about?
Well, and that became very real for me when I became an entrepreneur and started relying on other team members supporting me. And when I started to figure out that I was having a gap in that level of confidence with a few of my team members on some things, that very question popped up. And that's when I realized, wow, what a value it is to your executive for you to be able to consistently and reliably deliver what you deliver on a regular basis. And for them to know that your system is bulletproof and it's going to get done the right way every single time.
That's great. I love that word, bulletproof. Good. That's perfect. What are some of the chief pain points for assistants? Do you have some specific, with under that topic? You probably have a lot.
Well, I'm sure everyone can relate to this, and I'm sure we'll see this in the chat, but finding the time when we're already so busy and overextended and overwhelmed and our inboxes are exploding. How in the world do I stop and make time or force myself to put some things in place? And if you're facing a mountain of clutter and years of disorganization, this isn't something you're going to solve in one session sitting down at your desk. So I have 2 key tips here. And the first one is think progress, not perfection. Because the one thing I found about assistants in particular, and I know because I'm guilty of it too, is we think everything has to be perfect for us to check it off and say that it's done or that we're organized or we have to perfectly maintain it. You need to continually be thinking about making progress in this area, not necessarily perfecting it, because every single time a situation changes or a team member changes or an executive changes, your systems and your procedures for how you do things are going to need to evolve and change also. So this isn't something you're going to put one exact system in place and it's going to stay that exact way for the entire time you use it. Things have to stay adaptable in this 21st century digital age that we live and work in. The second piece of that is it's a journey, not a destination. So you have to continue doing the things that I teach in the book and that you hear in some of the webinars and training that you attend. It's a continual thing that you're working on and doing, not some place you get to and then it's done and you don't have to go back to it again. So even if you can find an extra 5 minutes a day to work on your organizing skills or to work on that to file pile or to go in and start organizing your digital files, little chunks add up. And I used to be in sales and one of my managers used to say every little bit counts. It didn't matter how big or how small our sales numbers were for the week. She's like, everybody joins together and we do this as a team. So sometimes even with your teams, you're going to need to have people chip in and help a little bit to get some things back under control, and then maintaining it becomes a much easier process.
Great, thank you very much. Let's see, the next, I think this is a really great question. What are the most important systems an assistant should have mapped out to move from chaos to control?
So I'll pick the 5 that I say to start with, but every person's desk and responsibilities are different. So you may need to add to this, or you may have some others that are a higher priority. But as a general rule, across the spectrum of assistants' desks, what I've found is you need a time and task management system. So some way of organizing the tasks that are coming in and allocating or prioritizing them to get them accomplished. The second area then, filing, paper and digital. And I talk in my book about ways you can set up your paper files and your digital files so your systems mirror each other. And so if you go to look for it in this part of a file drawer, then you should probably have a similar folder online in your digital files. So those are a couple of things with filing that can make that a little easier instead of having totally different systems in place for paper and for digital and not knowing where to go to look for things. Travel planning is another big one. Event and meeting planning is probably the 4th one I would add to that. And then while time and task management kind of ties into this, I look at this as a little bit separate because a lot of us from assistants' perspectives are getting involved in projects. So having some sort of a tool or a system in place for how you manage larger projects. Managing the little one-off requests and tasks that come in is different than managing the whole scope of a larger project. And so thinking about, as more and more assistants are seeing that become part of their job description, coming up with a system that works for you and ultimately works for your team also, because it's really a system that everybody needs to be participating in for effective project management. But for some of you, there are going to be other things that may involve, accounting type systems or customer service related systems or disaster recovery type systems, depending on who you support specifically. So the 5 I mentioned are the ones that I kind of start with. And then from there, you're going to need to evaluate what else your particular position needs.
That's really good. I remember, I think it was just this morning when I was revisiting your book, the project management chapter that you have. I think that is going to be, I know that's going to be very useful, as you said, as more and more assistants are doing more project work. And that could be overwhelming, right? When you're handed a project. I mean, I just know for us, like in hosting our conference every year, 26 years ago, we had like 30 people come and it was a checkoff list. And now Jasmine has this huge fat binder, you know, detailed down to every little piece. So that's going to be an awesome chapter and very useful for a lot of assistants today. And I like that you mentioned the filing, because I think most assistants hate and dread filing. You know, at least I don't think there's as much paper filing like we had right in the old days. Right. Now you've got the digital, but that can be overwhelming, correct, in terms of your emails and coming up with a really good system for filing your emails.
Right. Well, and even with the digital filing, and where this became really clear for me, I was coaching an assistant, helping her kind of get some things under control with her position and those she was supporting. And one day she said something about going to look for a file that I had sent to her. And I said, well, don't you have a folder created specifically for our calls? And she said, no. I said, okay, do you mind if we do a screen share? I said, I want you to show me what you do with a file when you get it on your email or somebody sends it to you. And when she showed it, she had everything in one great big folder. And I said, and she had a few subcategories, but not nearly enough. And so that was when I realized, and I said, so how do you do this on your desk? And she had a much better system on her desk with her paper files than she did with her digital files. And I said, okay, let's stop and put some organization in place with these digital files, because if your executive comes to you and says, can you update that spreadsheet that we worked on last month or that we need for this meeting tomorrow, you have got to be able to pull it up at a moment's notice and know that you have the most recent version that is the one that needs to be updated, and not second guess yourself and then have them second guess you, or worse yet, redo work that you've already done.
I was just thinking as you were talking how almost the filing of your emails and such and documents, really it is important, because when you just said you have to make sure you have the most recent of whatever, and when you've got this just volumes and volumes of information coming in, I would think it's a very important skill, even probably more important than years past, because it's a whole different beast in itself, correct?
Yes, it is. And the one thing with email that so one of the biggest challenges I have with organization is still to this day email. But what I have learned, and part of the reason I adore Laura Stack and her books and materials and her systems, is because she has a phenomenal system for processing email out of your inbox. And that has made a huge difference in how I approach email. So if you think of your inbox as a mailbox, not your to-do list, and then you think about if you physically walk to your mailbox, do you stand there and write checks at your mailbox? Do you stand there and process your mail while you're standing at your mailbox? I don't really know anybody who does that. So I want you to start thinking about your inbox as your mailbox, not your to-do list. And when you start with that premise and then figure out, most people are 90+% of offices around the world are still using Microsoft Office Suite. So I'll share this analogy considering that you're using Outlook. So if you take that email in your inbox, and if there is something you can handle on the spot and reply and get it out of your inbox, do it. But if it's something that requires you to put more work or more effort into it, then it needs to be moved into a task or into a calendar appointment so that you get it into your system for following up with it and being able to track it through. So for example, if I get email in my inbox and it's a request from Joan to put some questions together to prepare for this webinar, I may not be able to do that in 2 or 3 minutes. So I move it to a task. I assign dates for starting the task and the due date for when it's due, because what you actually want to do then in task is have your tasks show up by start date so that you know when you're supposed to get started on it, not when it's actually due. And so instead of spending your day in your inbox, then you spend your day in your task list, and in tasks you can drag them up and down to prioritize them. So at the end of the day, when you're looking forward to tomorrow, you can prioritize before you ever leave the office the order in which your open tasks need to be addressed. So when you have those little 5-minute, 10-minute chunks of time during the day and you need to quickly figure out what do I do next, your prioritized task list is sitting right there waiting for you. So when I started working from tasks instead of working from my inbox, and when I go to my inbox, I process the mail out of it, and then I go back to my task to work, that made a huge difference in inbox management strategies for me.
Wow, that sounds really great. I like that concept and that analogy. Very, very useful. And I don't know why I can't see the chat box on my screen today, so I feel a little lost. I can't see what people or how they're commenting. So I don't know what I did today, but anyways, I could see you, and that's the important thing. But I hope in the chat they're saying, wow, thank you, that's awesome. Oh, here's a really good question. What's the difference between procedures and systems?
Well, I've become famous for office procedures. And a lot of you hopefully have gotten started with those procedures. We have we had a poll question I think we're going to post to find out how many of you actually have office procedures in place. But as I wrote this book, The Organized Admin, and we're talking more about systems, this is a question I've received a lot. What's the difference between these procedures you're talking about and these systems you're now talking about? And it's pretty simple. Procedures are what make up your systems. So think of systems as the bigger whole object, and the procedures as all those little parts in between, the little gears that make the system happen. And with systems, for example, you're going to have a system for travel planning, okay? And the individual components or the individual procedures that make up your system for travel planning include getting a profile together for your executive, so you know what all their preferences are for when they're traveling, their frequent flyer numbers, all of their vital stats. The next piece of that procedure then, or that system, is when you actually have a trip coming up, how you intake information from your executive to get as much information as you can up front. So I've always created a good intake form that asks, who's involved in this travel with you? Where are you going? Who's my best contact point on the other end? Are you traveling commercially? Are you traveling privately? Do you want car service? Are you taking taxis? Like, what are all of those things that I can get from my executive the first time they walk up to my desk or send me an email and say, I need to have you book travel for me? That's a procedure by itself. Once I get all of that and I call and I get all my details figured out, then I convert that into a travel itinerary that I send out the door with my executive. And that's kind of where I double check myself and make sure I've got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed and everything about this trip isn't firmly in place and ready to go. So there's various templates and forms and checklists that make up this system, and those individual procedures are the pieces that come together to create the system as a whole then.
That's really great, and I love that you are the procedures queen, because that takes a lot of time, to step everything out, and that's probably what's difficult for assistants, sometimes. And I think, for example, I know if you had to teach someone else all of what you do, right, your procedures, it would take you quite a bit of time to map that out. And so I guess with that in mind, and thinking about the checklists and the time issue, of course, how would you tell the assistant or an assistant to go about starting to get procedures organized and down on paper, because they're so busy just doing the work and trying to meet the deadline? How can they go about that without feeling overwhelmed?
Well, I created my 5 simple steps for getting your procedures started for that very reason, because I get a lot of pushback from everybody, from entrepreneurs, from admins, anybody who they know they need it, but they struggle with getting it started. So the biggest thing with procedures, you're doing these things all day long anyway. To slow down just slightly and start jotting notes as you do these things is not adding that much time to your day. And as you do them again, you can keep adding to them. So this procedure doesn't have to be perfect the first time you put it on paper. And it doesn't have to be beautifully typewritten. A handwritten procedure is still a documented procedure. And as long as somebody can get from point A to point Z following your chicken scratches on a piece of paper, it's a documented procedure. So one of the things I encourage assistants to think about is if you can grab a quick screenshot of something that's on your computer screen, or you can, take a document you're working on, run a photocopy of it, and highlight or circle things on that actual piece of paper. 3-hole punch it and stick it in a 3-ring binder at that moment. You can always go back and add to it later, but at least you're starting to get a few things captured in the moment as you do them. Same thing with, so how we get assistants started typically is tracking your tasks all day long for 3-4 days. For everything from what you do from the moment you get to your computer in the morning or even reach the front door. So in one job that I had, I was responsible for unlocking the front door, getting the lights on, making the coffee, getting things up and running in the office in the morning. And so I had a starting the day procedure before I ever got to my own computer to sit down and log in. And then once I got to my own computer, I needed to unforward my phone, check voicemail, log into my email, check all my executive schedules. And so I just created quick little checklists that I could have as a visual to keep me on track, because in moments of chaos and when there's just everything erupting around you, you've got to have some things to refer back to yourself. So procedures aren't just something you're creating for others to use in your absence. These are hugely valuable tools in helping you stay on top of all of the moving parts and details. And as you're doing these things, just get out a pen and paper and start scratching notes down. And if you're more of a digital person, and if you haven't checked out OneNote yet, I highly encourage you to try that tool. It's part of the Microsoft Office suite. If you don't already have it or your IT department hasn't made it visible, ask them. It can also be downloaded free from OneNote.com. And start using that to capture things as you're doing them, because you can even add video and audio in OneNote. And so sometimes you can just talk through the procedure in an audio or a video file, and it's captured so that somebody else could at least use it if they needed to, or that you could refer back to it yourself if you needed to down the road. So you have to just find those little micro opportunities to keep doing it as you go and not get overly perfectionistic about this, because the goal here is to be consistent and reliable, not have it be absolutely perfect in how it's delivered when you share it with someone else.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I believe we have a poll, actually, speaking of procedures, that if Jasmine wants to put that up, asking, does our audience, do the people in our audience have a procedures binder created for their position?
We do have that poll, Joan. And Julie referenced it when she began answering, so I did go ahead and make that poll live, and it was about 50-50, the responses on that.
Okay, that's like probably why I can't see it, because I don't have a chat. I don't know where my chat is, Jasmine. I don't know what I did today, but anyways, I feel like I'm a little blindsided here. But good. And what was the, because I didn't see it, what about, was there the first poll we did about which area of work they struggle most with? Could you tell me what the top answers were with that one?
I can. At 25%, time and task management was the clear lead, and email management was 20% of our audience.
Wow. All right. Very good. Thank you. So with time management, being at the top, I know we're getting close to our time here, Julie. So what would be, the most important advice that you want to leave everyone with today, the best tip that you can give them, so if they don't remember anything else, well, first of all, hopefully they're going to buy your book and they'll have it all in here. That's what we want them to do, of course, because it's awesome. But what would you like to say?
The basis of my book starts with identifying your unique organizing style. And there's a tool called the Time and Space Style Inventory that was developed by Sina Block and Sunny Schlinger, who was one of the original authors of How to Get Organized in Spite of Yourself. And that tool, I think, is the most fantastic starting point for you, especially as the assistant, but also if you can get your executive or executives to take it also, because what it helps you do is identify what your time, space, style is, so that how you manage time can be worked into the system you develop to stay more organized. Instead of fighting yourself, it helps you create things or come up with strategies for making it more productive. And one of the things for me, I am an everything out space style person. So that can create lots of chaos and clutter on my desk very quickly. So what I've had to do is I love using, I brought a few of these here, the clear poly pockets so that things still stay visible, but they're contained and they're organized. And then I use clear dividers that are up right on my desk to keep things prioritized throughout the day. So that was a way for me to still keep everything out, because I'm so afraid if it's out of sight, it'll be out of mind. But then also tying that into finding a good project management tool that I knew I could trust and that would keep things popping up for me on the digital side to cue me in or to remind me where to go and find my files that need work on them today. So identifying what your unique organizing and time priority style is a great place to start, because from there, then you can create a system around getting organized that works for you. And then you'll be able to identify what is going to work best for your boss, because what works best for you may not be the best thing for your executive. And forcing that on them is not going to help the process. It's just going to make it worse. So that's my best tip for getting started, is figure that out and then work from there to develop your system.
Wow, that's awesome. Very, very good. What, I can't believe it. Our half hour is up already, because I know I could probably talk to you for another half hour at least. It's just a great topic, and it's very important. But in being respectful of our audience's time and consideration, I just want to personally thank you, Julie. It was just fantastic to be able to talk with you today and hear all these wonderful tips. And I believe you and Jasmine have a few things that you're still going to continue with for a moment. So Jasmine, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Joan. Yes, we do have our special offer for today, just like all of our webinars in this series. And that is, you get 5 books, 5 administrative books for only $50. All of these books are also available individually if you prefer to just get one of them, and they're all available at our officedynamics.com/store, success store. I believe our webinar administrator will put that link in there for you to make it easy, but you can see if you can see the chat, some of you can, I've put the offer up there. It's Julie's 2 books, The Innovative Admin and The Organized Admin, which we were talking about today, along with Joan's 3 books for the administrative profession, Become an Inner Circle Assistant, Underneath It All, and Who Took My Pen Again. So all 5 of those books for just $50 is a great way to build up your administrative library. Perhaps you have some of those, make good holiday gifts. So just want to share that offer with all of you until December 16th. And we also have our special giveaways that we want to do right now. It's time.
Yay!
And we are going to give away 5 travel planning from A to Z programs to 5 lucky winners that are in the webinar right now. And the first one is Courtney. Courtney, your email address starts with CRIES, C-R-I-E-S. So Courtney, you are one of our winners. And Beth, you are second winner. Beth, your last name is S-A-V-I-T-Z-K-Y. So Beth, you are our second winner. Heather Dinwiddie, D-I-N-W-I-D-D-I-E is number 3. Gigi, that's G. Rollins Perry of Fujifilm. Gigi, G-E-G. And I believe one more, Jackie Diaz, and that's Jackie Diaz, you're at Aetna. So those are the 5 winners, and
Yay. I didn't ring my bell today yet.
And I believe here, Julie, you had something that you wanted to give away to everyone that's on the webinar.
Absolutely. If you go to theorganizedadmin.com, that's the website specific for the book. I have broken out the resources in the book into 4 different categories. There are free files that you can download, a bunch of templates. There are resources, free resources. There's a section on what I use, so you can actually see pictures of some of the things that I use in my office for staying organized. And then there's, can't remember what the 4th category is there, but if you request any single template, it will actually give you the zip file with all of the templates off of the book website. So you can just request it once and you'll get all of the files. And that's the free resources that go with the book. And you're welcome to go to theorganizedadmin.com. It'll take you through a shopping cart, but you do not need to enter a credit card. All you need to do is give us your contact information so we can continue sharing resources with you going forward. And you'll get that zip file packed full of resources to help you get more organized.
That's excellent. Go ahead and make sure to include that in our follow-up blog notes as well, so everyone can make sure that they take advantage of that offer. Okay, well, remember that we do have our special Pillar Huddle coming up with our team here in just a few moments, but we want to remind you as well to join us for tomorrow's webinar. It's Building a Star Partnership, so we will be available, or not tomorrow, today's Friday, so we'll be back on Monday.
I was like, I'm not coming to work tomorrow.
I just want to keep going through the weekend. No. And thank you so much, Julie, for joining us today. It's been so insightful, and I know that we have just opened up so much here with the learnings that we've just had on the organized admin.
Yes.
Thank you. It's been delightful to be here.
Thanks, Julie.
All right. Well, instead of hitting end broadcast, I'm going to go ahead and just get a couple things situated, and the team's going to come in and join us, and we're going to give this a shot at doing a live Pillar Huddle. So, all right, let's see here. And I see they're coming in. All right, Joan muted her microphone. Okay, we see you there.
I did mute.
Okay, Julie, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. And I will scoot back here.
There's the
All right,
chat.
I see the chat. There's the chat. It's there.
I was so lonely today in there.
Oh, well, really quick, I just want to introduce everybody. So we have Malia here. You get a lot of emails from Malia telling you about when to log in and where to log in. And of course, Joan, you know Joan. And then we've got Brian over here. And everybody's been commenting. He's the photo in the lower corner that everybody asks about. So Brian is our webinar administrator and just a really great team helping pull everything together with these daily webinars. So I'm going to close this door here too.
Yeah, close the door, and hopefully they can hear me okay from here. Since I'm going to be reading, can everyone hear all right?
Yeah, if you could just let us know in the chat if you can hear Joan.
Okay. So for today's Pillar Huddle, I found something. It's in the recent issue of my Success magazine that just came, and Tony Robbins is on the cover, but that's not the one I'm going to talk about today. And I thought this was perfect because as we're getting ready to launch into a new year, and this article to all of our pillars, all 5, career, family, financial, spiritual, and wellness. And so anyways, I love it. It's called How Bad Do You Want the Life You Want? And it's by Margie Worrell. And Margie, let me get to her piece. She's a keynote speaker and the author of Find Your Courage, Stop Playing Safe, Brave, and the forthcoming Make Your Mark. So anyways, we'll take care of that. And it's 4 pages, but I'm not going through all of it. I'm just going to share with you the 6 areas that she covered. So first of all, as far as your 6-point plan for summoning strength to make your dreams a reality, number 1 is you have to know your why. Start by asking yourself, for the sake of what? Nothing worthwhile is accomplished with a guarantee of success. Risk is a toll life exacts en route to any meaningful endeavor. Finding the courage to take risks demands you be clear about why you are doing it in the first place. And then she says we are wired to focus more on what we have to lose than what we might gain. Therefore, before you can find the courage to risk losing something, you have to be crystal clear about what it is you want to gain in the process. And I was also just thinking, for those of you who are on the huddle with us, I'm sorry I didn't do a good job of explaining. With the huddle, one of us always takes a turn sharing something for the week. So this is my week, and I picked something around, like I was telling you earlier, that would affect all of our pillars. What the rest of the team does is, as I'm reading through the source,
is they jot notes about what stands out for them, and then we're going to go around and they're each going to share what resonated with them and how they're going to apply it to their life. So if you want to do the same thing, please feel free to. The second is to confront your fears. Fear often gets a bad rap. Its sole purpose is to alert you to potential threats to your safety. But in today's culture of fear, we can find ourselves living in its shadow, unable to distinguish those fears that are serving us from those that are stifling us. The results, I'm going to go on to that. When we shine a light on our fears and realize the actual cost of inaction, we loosen the grip fear has on our psyche. Number 3, she says to trust your capabilities. Only when we dare to trust ourselves and dream more bravely can we harness the potential that resides within us and unleash our brilliance upon the world. Number 4 is to embrace uncertainty. I like this one. She says, all change, even positive change, is innately uncomfortable. It requires the familiarity of the known for the uncertainty of the new. It's why so many people choose to sleepwalk through their adult lives, staying in jobs that leave them miserable or in relationships that leave them lonely. But what is the cost? By discounting the price of our inaction and indecision, we sell ourselves out and settle for a life far smaller than the one we are capable of living. And then think big and start small. And that was another reason why I thought this was a good article, because we talked about big this week and we talked about change. And she says it usually takes less than a minute after having an inspiring vision to feel overwhelmed by the size of the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Which is why, however audaciously big your dream is, you need to start by breaking it into smaller, shorter-term goals with doable, bite-sized actions achievable in the short term. Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. So I like that, because I was thinking about, when I think about something new, a new program, or like we've talked about wanting to create a lengthy online learning program, and it seems so massive and overwhelming, I back off. But if I could just maybe take, that next step, then I'll figure out what the next step is after that. And then for number 6, she says, embody your inner bravery. Let's be clear. Living courageously is not the absence of knots in your stomach, a lump in your throat, chattering teeth, or sweaty palms. It's not about being fearless. It's about fearing less. We all have the capacity for greatness within us. Sometimes we've simply spent so long buying into a story that we've become a stranger to the bravest part of ourselves. It doesn't need to stay that way. So, and the whole article was awesome.
We can share the link to the article with everyone that's still viewing here too. That'd be great.
So, Jasmine, you want to maybe go first and kind of get the group feeling comfortable with hundreds of people watching us?
Sure. I mean, I love that the article started with knowing your why, because then the rest really falls into place below that. But I think that I really want to pull out that finding the courage to take risks. And fear was really a repeated theme throughout the article, because it does stifle us. When we shrink back and we let fears determine and dictate to us what we're capable of doing, as opposed to trusting our capabilities or taking risks, we lose out. We lose out on so much, because we don't ever get a chance to test ourselves and push ourselves out of our comfort zone and do new things and take on new challenges, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's riding a horse, or trying to do an online program. And we don't know what we're truly capable of if we don't take those risks and I guess push fear aside, or face fear, whatever you want to say about fear. It's just you if you don't do it, you don't get to see what you're truly capable of. And other people lose out too because they don't get to see or witness that greatness that you could be part of creating. You know, you can create a great program that all of these people around the world can take part in, or you don't, or you maybe don't, and then they never really get the chance to do that too. So when fear dictates to us what we get to do in life, we lose out, and everyone else that would have taken part in that loses out too. So we gotta take those risks.
You should let Jasmine go first. It's really hard to follow.
You should have let us go first.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. I really liked the embrace uncertainty because there's been so many times with my kids and with my husband, well, you know, what if, and afraid to do things where the fear comes in again. And it's just kind of been, and maybe I learned it from my parents, I don't know, but it's kind of been one of my things where it's like, well, you don't know unless, so let's go, you know. And so that's really important. That's an important thing in my life. And it's brought me here. It, you know, it's the reason why I have my 3 boys. It's the reason why I'm here with you guys. It's the reason why I live in this town. Just, you know, embracing the uncertainty has brought so much in my life that I'm so grateful for. So
That's really good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I like that.
Oh yeah, I got it. You read it.
You guys did, and I'll share the end. Just closing thoughts, but
The whole article kind of hits home with me, just based on everything that's kind of gone on in my life for the past 5 years. With going from my old lifestyle to my new lifestyle, and just changing my whole life, like literally. I stopped who I was for 30 years and became this like new person, pretty much on my own will, with very little uncertainty of how things were going to go for me. You know, I became a single father. I stopped what I was doing for a living and I came to work here for your company with no experience whatsoever. I had never raised kids 7 days a week on my own, so I took that on. So, you know, that was a good 4 years of just a lot of uncertainties and unknowns and fears. And working here, I had no confidence because I didn't really have the experience. So over the years, I had to kind of build all that up and just kind of become this new me and start this new life. And I had to trust myself during the whole process that, you know what, even though this is all new to me, it's always new to everyone until it becomes not new. Like everything we do is new at some point in time. And then now, like at this point in my life, I'm in the process of moving my relationship to the next level and buying a home and buying a refrigerator today. So, and it's used. So I'm uncertain, like, is this a bad decision or not? But you know what? I'm going to take the risk. And I'm probably going to end up with a really nice refrigerator for a good price. So,
It's a good way to look at it.
yeah.
it's just, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all face these uncertainties every day of our lives, but the past, 5 years for me has been nothing but everything that was.
In
this
here,
article, so.
yeah. I really liked it, and I can't, wait to dig deeper into the article. Like I said, I just had gotten this issue, and I just pulled it out this morning to really dig deep through it. The know your why, I think Tony Robbins talks about that, and of course other great.
Simon Sinek, who you mentioned
Oh, yes,
earlier in the series,
yes.
he talks about starting with why.
Yeah, which is really important. So I think if we look at our goals and our different pillars, like in our career pillar, why is it that we want particular things? I mean, the real reason, or I think financial, why? What will it really do for you, correct? Or wellness, what's your real why behind your wellness pillars. So anyways, I know we're going to keep this short and to the point today, so we don't take any more time up of our group. And so this is a little snapshot of our pillar huddle and what we do on Fridays to make sure that we are giving attention to our 5 pillars throughout the year. So Jasmine, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for joining me. Thanks for
Thank
Steve
you.
for joining me in the office, and thanks for staying online with us to watch the Pillar Huddle in action. And again, to Julie Ferrari, who joined us today and talked about the organized admin. We'll be in touch with all of you soon with a follow-up, and thanks.
Have a
Bye.
good
See you around
day.
there.
Bye.